Matters for discussion, action, discussion of complaint made by Alderperson Probst and complaint and withdrawal made against Alderperson Probst, investigative findings and report and recommendations.
Alderman Lysak.
Alderperson Probst.
I guess I will begin tonight. First at letting you and everyone in the audience know how sad I am that this had become public. I want everyone here to understand that I tried to do the right thing. When I became aware of a development deal that didn't smell right, I went straight to the person in charge. I went right to John. I did so privately. That would be John Stiebel, our Director of Development. That got nowhere. I then went to the council president, you. I had a meeting with you at Urban Joe's on August 9th of 2016, in which I told you not only about the behavior of some of the members of our council towards Rebecca Grill during committee meetings. I also told you about the fact that John Stiebel had in fact lied to the Milwaukee County Board of Supervisors and to me. I have brought that up on more than one occasion, and my statements went nowhere. No one did anything. I then went to the mayor. I talked to the mayor about this. I talked to Rebecca Grill about this. I talked to my partner Marty about this in his backyard. I talked to him about the way in which Alderman Chaplesky continued to talk during committee meetings, both to myself, Alderman Reinke, and Rebecca Grill, in some of the most unprofessional ways that I have seen, and these would occur during meetings. Yet, all three of the individuals, both Tom and the mayor, as well as my partner Marty, all deny that I ever brought this up. You have all stood back and said, I never talked to you about any of this. So my question to you is, why on earth would I lie about something like that? Every allegation that I made has been confirmed and has been backed up by witnesses, by audio tape, by videotape, and by emails. So I guess I wonder what I stand to gain by bringing this forward. I have asked for absolutely nothing out of this. I asked for the right thing to be done. That's what I asked for. And then I got nowhere. So when the whole deal became very apparent that no one was hearing me, and the deal went forward and only Alderman Barzak sided with me, understanding that there was something wrong and something didn't smell right, only then, after I had words with Patrick and he filed a complaint against me, did I realize that the way in which things were being handled was first and foremost horribly unprofessional, but sexist. I have been the victim through, and the witnesses are sitting at this very table, of at least 4 instances in which male members of City Hall staff have berated me publicly. I've been offered apologies by 2 of them, admitting to how they behaved. And yet when I did the exact same thing that had been done to me, I had a complaint filed against me, and I was told that I was unprofessional. I merely thought that I had been taught along the way how to communicate here, because it was how I had been communicated with. So I thought, okay. So when Patrick filed his complaint against me, I did the most logical thing, and I got myself a lawyer because I wasn't taking this sitting down. 2 days later, Patrick withdrew his complaint. So I realized that something wasn't right. Something didn't smell right. No one withdraws a complaint. If there was something that I had done wrong, why wouldn't he have pushed forward with it? So that made me realize that there was something that I was missing. Something that was here in front of me that I couldn't see. And then I got the letter, and you guys all have the packet of information that I've provided for you. This would be the evidence that I've had all along, dating back from 2013 over this building, all the way up to and including Ted Atkinson's words, in which he decides to just go ahead and take a building from raise to rehab.
What page number is that?
They're not numbered, but they do go chronologically. So I will start at the beginning of the packet, and maybe this will make some more sense. All right. First and foremost, in 2013, Marty and I receive an email from the mayor that was, it's top page here, was put together by Ted Atkinson and then forwarded to Marty and I from the mayor. This is Ted's words wanting, and the mayor both requesting that this building be placed on raise orders. If the owner doesn't repair it, have the city attorney file the court order to raise. So these were Ted's words. This is 2013, and at that time, Ted was, and you guys should be the witnesses, those of you that were on administration and finance and safety and development, I don't believe that I have ever talked favorably about this building. Those of you that can recall, I used to tease Ted and say, buy me a gallon of black paint and I'll go repaint that black stripe on the bottom. Seeing Alderman Mays giggle, I think he remembers that story as well. So, not understanding or believing that this building was being put on the raise list, I'd like you guys to turn the page and look at the emails that are subsequent. Nowhere on these emails will you find Marty and I, the two alderpersons of the district. So you had a lot of things going on behind the scenes in which we weren't even being aware or notified. Ted specifically asks City Attorney Jenna Merton whether or not he can, this is on page 2, underlined and starred. Attorney Jenna M., can the city rehab the building under this judgment or shall it be raised? 6 hours and 16 minutes later, she responds, no, it has to be raised per the court order. All right, so Ted was given his answer. 8.5 months later, if you turn the page and you look at Ted Atkinson's email of October 1st, 2014, again, Marty and I, the alderman of the district, never notified that there was a change in which Ted has made a decision. His exact terminology, I have determined that the city will continue to work with the prospective buyer. There was a court order for raising this building. And he gets the word from our city attorney and yet still decides to plow his own path. I couldn't figure out why he would do this. Why on earth would he go against the rulings or the advice of our own city attorney? Why would he do that? I couldn't figure it out. I knew there had to have been something there. There was some game that I was missing. Subsequent, you'll find on the next few pages, you'll find development department agendas in which the zombie properties, discussion about demolition was all ongoing, including the raise orders. I have no reason at this point to believe, as we go through the years, all the way up through 2015, that the raise orders were not still in effect. Again, I was never copied on any of those previous emails, so I don't know that Ted made this change. All right? So I keep finding our staff agendas, which again come out after the meeting has occurred. So I have really no ability to go in and affect the meeting before it happens. Because again, we get these agendas in the afternoon and the meetings occur in the morning, as you can see. So again, I have all the way through October 8th of 2015. I'm still looking at a demolition recommendation committee agenda in which that building is still listed. I have no reason at this point to believe that anything has gone on behind the scenes. The next letter here from Mr. Gerasi is the owner of the building. Suzette's Hair for You is in. And he had some questions and was willing to look at a potential outcome for how he could benefit his own business. He was never in favor of the building going there, and he did come to our council and he spoke to that as well. Yet I had been told that there was no opposition to this plan. This, in fact, shows the opposition. On the next page, we have letters from Patrick Schloss to, again, a list of people that I'm not included on, but the council president is, in which they talk about the demolition specs continuing. Again, my opposition was never once shared to the County Board of Supervisors. I had a meeting with John Wyshon at Starbucks in Miller Park Way in May of 2017, shortly before I filed the complaint. And John assured me that never once did John or Patrick, in going to the county board, ever once voice my opposition to that building. As a matter of fact, the two county board supervisors for our area were told specifically that there was no opposition whatsoever. And John Wyshon will be more than happy to come here and tell you that himself. All right? But again, please note that Marty and I were never included up until this point. This is one of the first emails in which we are actually given some indication as to what's happening here. If you look at the next page, dated April 5th of 2016, again, Patrick's email says, I believe the specs are still being developed for demolition. Again, I am still being led to believe that demolition is ongoing. I don't find out about the deal with Ben Marjama until shortly before it was too late to do anything about it. And at that point, I made sure Ben knew to his face that I wanted his business, but I did not want it in that building. I said I would help him find another location, but that on the thoroughfare to a $68 million development going in, we did not need yet another automobile repair business. These are not necessarily, and again, I'm all about business, I understand it, but there are certain places for certain types of businesses, and on this major thoroughfare, that wasn't gonna be the spot for it. So, at one point, when it was emailed to me that this had gone through, I stated, and I believe my words are here, it's too bad that at least one of the district's 2 aldermen wasn't more influential in having this property raised as it should have been. Then again, Wyshawn doesn't do much good for me anyway, because John led me to believe that the county board supervisors didn't care about the opposition. Again, John never told them about the opposition. However, this particular email, I got phone calls after this email in which someone tried to assume that I was throwing my partner Marty under the bus. That statement that I made had absolutely nothing to do with Marty. It was about the lack of influence that I have in my own district. And the fact that I had people who work for the city that are supposed to be following and listening to those of us that are representing the taxpayers, wasn't listening. So this following email was my explaining that I never once tried to throw Marty under the bus. Although it was ironic to me that somebody tried to make it a fight between the 2 of us. 2017, January 17th, there's a letter from the mayor and Suzette Grisham from Suzette's Hair for You, explaining that the mayor knew very well about her opposition to the plan and her thanking the mayor for trying to help her through this. Yet, I don't know how much help the mayor does when he denies ever having been told about this. The next is the certified copy from Milwaukee County regarding the development deal that went through. So this was to make sure that you guys could all remember the order of the things that had happened. Now, I had lunch with John Stiebel on April 13th, 2017 at Urban Joe's at his invitation. At that lunch, we were attempting to clear up what was going on with this particular building, and I implored John to please help the residents of the 2nd District. When I went door to door in 2012, I was told 2 things. I made a list of all of the important things that people told me they wanted me to work on if I had been elected. Overriding were the 2 buildings that people wanted to see gone, the Washington Street Apartment Building and Expert Auto Care. Washington Street Apartments came down with absolutely no problems. Ted acted in the very beginning when I started like he was my biggest ally in trying to get Expert Auto Care down. It was at his insistence that it went on the raised list in the first place. Behind my back, he goes and does an about face, never once decides to tell Marty or I what's going on. So when I find out that this has been happening, I can't figure out why they would go against the city attorney's advice. That makes no sense to me. And then I get the letter from Ben Carpenter, taxpayer in the city of West Allis, dated May 15th of 2017. He is the former assistant manager at Expert Auto Care. And in this, he alleges that Ted Atkinson and members of his family, as well as other city officials, had been receiving free automobile repair work at Expert Auto Care. Now there is some leverage to why Ted would go and change it. I couldn't understand why he would go against our city attorney's words. Why would you do that? Why would you make a decision to just change something that you don't have the leverage to change? That's a decision that we should have made, not one that the Department of Building Inspection and Neighborhood Services would have made. So I guess when it's all said and done, I look at the allegations that have been made. I want this investigated. If there's a pay for play here, I want this taken care of. Not on our watch, not on my watch. I went to try to take care of this up front. I went to the people in question. When I got nowhere going to the person that I should talk to, I went to the next person I should go to, the council president. When I got nowhere there, I went to the mayor. I went to my partner. I went to a number of places, and no one was willing to have this discussion, and no one was even willing to investigate whether or not I was onto something. I think that's really sad. And it took a complaint being filed against me, to realize the unfair treatment that I have been dealt with at the hands of certain people at this table, as well as our city government here at City Hall. And I couldn't figure out why that I had been treated like that. Maybe it's because I'm not a part of the club. I'm not a part of the group that gets to have these little behind the scenes decisions. I'm very upfront. I'm very, very open. You want to know something? Ask me, I'll tell you. I don't hide. But there's an awful lot of hiding that went on here. And if we had had some honesty by some of our city officials, meaning Ted and John, people that were in charge of this particular building, maybe we would never be sitting here now. But all I know is that as we attempt to rebrand ourselves and move forward, this is a really big black eye. So in 2006, we had an employee at City Hall file a sexual harassment case against the city, and she didn't lose. Some of the very same people that were at the heart of that case are at the heart of mine. Seems to me that we haven't learned too much in the last 12 years. So, what I am looking for out of this is nothing personal. I wanted sensitivity training for the entire council because, as many people in this audience have seen and were here at council meetings to witness, the behavior of some of our council members is beneath us. It is inappropriate. Those comments should never be there. There are alderpersons at this table who visibly winced and physically reacted at some of the comments that have been made. I have talked to those individuals privately, and I can't believe that they never once said something and spoke out when they were given the opportunity. I think that says something about the content of their character. I think that this council needs to do better. All right, I sat at this very table and I listened to a council member speak to Alderperson Reinke in such a disrespectful way. And yet not one person sitting at the table, including our city attorney, called anybody out on it. That was horrible. And that was on camera. And there are people in this audience that watched that. Those are the kind of things we can't have happen, guys. I said something in the committee of the whole meeting in September. And I said something, I was sitting right there. And I said, you guys, we have to do better with the way we talk. And someone at this table said, I don't think we have a problem. And I said, well, when Alderperson Chaplesky can look at Alderperson Reinke in the middle of a committee meeting and tell her to go plan a parade in order to stop her from talking about a vaping ordinance, and that was seen by a multitude of people, as well as people who would be willing to stand up and talk about how unprofessional they found that, and no one said a word. You get to answer to them. All right? Because virtually every single person in this audience that I've had a conversation with had a significant issue with that comment alone. And when I called you out on it in front of everybody at this table while you were sitting right there and I was sitting across from you, you looked at me and you said, I will not be lectured to by the likes of you. And I looked at you and I said, what, a woman? Well, of course you're going to deny saying that. Why on earth would you admit to it? The same reason that Tom can't admit to having the conversation with me, or the mayor can't admit to having the conversation with me, because if they did, they would be admitting to understanding that there was a potential pay for play that went back as far as 2016. And then I think the taxpayers in this room would want to know why nothing was done. So I think this council has some work to do. When this is all finished, I want the sensitivity training to continue whether I'm here or not. If the pay for play proves itself out through the investigation, I want John Stiebel fired. I don't believe he ought to earn a single dollar from the tax base of this community. And last, but certainly not least, after receiving a phone call from one of my constituents who called the council president last year in May of 2017 to lament how her representative had been treated by the council president. He said to her that he and other council members had some severe reservations about Alderman Probst's mental stability, and they couldn't figure out what I was after, but it must be a payout. So if we can have a council president that can malign me to one of my taxpayers, he does not deserve to hold the title president of this common council. And I would like to see him. I cannot have him removed from the council, but I want him to step down as the council president. He no longer has the integrity to have that title. Those are the three things that I'm looking for. Thank you.
This council had an executive session on these issues several weeks ago. Our city administrator, Rebecca Grill, and in consultation with the city attorney's office and HR, came up with a program, a number of steps that we have already taken. And Rebecca, if you would read the conclusions. And this was, by the way, and let me just read the comments after the complaint against Alderperson Probst was withdrawn. And this is a part of the record. Although complainant, Community Development Manager Patrick Slosh, withdrew his claim, the legal counsel advises the city still has an obligation to address matters in order to avoid this type of situation recurring, and or if it would occur either by the same party, meaning Alderperson Probst, or a different party, it is documented that matters were addressed. Ad hoc committee comprised of City Attorney Post, City Administrator Grill, Alderperson Kevin Haas, in consultation with HR Director to determine a course of action. The course of action is what Rebecca will read right now.
There's 7 items that we had put together and suggested that we move forward with. The first was providing a copy of the findings to Alderwoman Probst's attorney, all of the alderpersons and other city employees named in the complaint. That was completed. Commencing a closed session of the Committee of the Whole in the month of January to discuss the employee performance issues identified in the findings. That was held not in January, but in February. Look into information regarding favorable treatment and take action according to municipal codes and policies and procedures. That investigation is currently underway. Continue executive leadership training program with appointed department heads. We are doing that on a monthly basis. Establish and conduct training with mayor, alderpersons, department heads, and managerial staff, focusing on roles, responsibilities, and expectations, conflict management, and harassment and bullying. We're working with our insurance company to provide this information. Conduct the training that I just mentioned at least once every term, and then provide access for all participants to particularized training covering the topics of communication, workplace diversity and biases, emotional intelligence, and social media.
And I'd just like to comment that this is something that this training has been going on at the council for Audrey, our Human Resources Director. Maybe you can let us know how long has that been going on? It's been going on for many years.
Well, since Cashmore, Mayor Cashmore, we used to
So back in the
those type
80s.
of meetings, yes.
So it's been going on since the
long
1980s.
time.
There has been training every term, including the last term, which I had kind of forgotten about, but you refreshed my memory that it did occur, and we just had one recently a few weeks ago. In addition to that, because the former employee of Expert Auto had made statements that came to light in this investigation from the outside investigator that was hired to look into this and chosen by Alderperson Probst and her attorney, has brought to light that there was possible violations by a city official or city officials as far as getting work done for free at the auto shop or at a reduced rate. City Attorney Post and Chief Mitchell have turned this over to the District Attorney's Office for investigation, and they are investigating to see if there is, in fact, any substance to those allegations. It is not a proven fact that anyone took any money. It is an allegation by a former employee. Whether that employee was happy with his job, whether he got fired, I have no idea. That's up to the DA to find out how good those allegations are, if there's any facts to them. Other than that, there is, I don't think, anything else to come before this committee, is there?
Alderman Lysick.
Alderperson Probst.
I would like to read a statement that I received last night from Mr. Carpenter, who could not be here tonight. And he said, in the event that you have any issues with his letter, Mr. Carpenter requests that he be present to defend his statements. He is a contractor for the Department of Defense, United States Army, and is currently attending the Global Symposium at Huntsville, Alabama. He
We are
stated that
not
every-
investigating this. The
No.
DA's office is investigating it, and so we're not going to get into that investigation at all. That has to be done by professionals.
If you'd let me finish, what I was trying to get to is to let this council know that Mr. Carpenter would be more than happy to come and speak with you at this council, should you guys have any questions as to how he came about that information. He does not want his words to be discredited. He said that he can send any proof or registration that is necessary to back up everything that he has stated.
Again, that is not our job to conduct an investigation of this sort. That is up to the DA's office. And so we will not be contacting him to speak with us. Anything else come before the committee?
I guess my question to this group would be, I received the exact same treatment that I delivered to Patrick from John Stiebel, from Vince Vitale, from Mark Weiss, and to a lesser extent from Alderman Chaplesky, as well as a defaming of my character from Alderman Lysick. I'm guessing, what lesson is it that you want future alderpersons to learn from this? Because I was treated very disrespectfully by John Stiebel at a Plan Commission meeting in which Alderman May was the witness, as was Deb Rouse of the school district, in which I was told to my face that I had no business getting myself involved in the Jefferson School playground situation. Alderman May should remember this. This was a really big deal, and I had to be excused from the library board in order to be here that night. I was yelled at in public. No one took me away from the group. He yelled at me and lambasted me in front of everybody, including my former employer. That was the first time that I was dealt with in a very unprofessional manner. Alderman Vitale sat in this very room on November 9th, 2015, and lambasted me for a vote that I made as a member of the Administration and Finance Committee. Now again, especially after our last council meeting, I find the fact that Alderman Vitale would scold me on a vote a little laughable, considering his vote on the bartender that he so eloquently tried to get a license for. Mark Weiss didn't like the term I used during an Administration and Finance Committee meeting and decided to scold me in front of the entire room because he didn't like a term I used. I don't understand how those things are acceptable when I was the victim, but when I did it to someone else after I had been shown clearly how to do this, especially by what? John Stiebel's been here for 32 years. Vince, you've been here since when? 88?
Yes.
Okay, so I've been shown by some pretty long-term employees here, evidently, how to behave. So when I do exactly what was done to me, wow, it was funny how the tables were turned. So I'm guessing, what is the lesson that you'd like the next alderperson that's going to sit in my seat, or perhaps take any of your seats in the next election? What lesson do you want them to learn out of this?
I would say the lesson that they should learn is that as an alderperson, they cannot belittle a department head, because an alderperson is in a position of power, and employees of this city work maybe not directly for us, but for other employees in the city. And one puts himself in a position of bullying because you're threatening jobs, you're threatening their job
False.
security.
False. Never once was Patrick's
As
job
an elected
threatened.
official, we, as elected officials, are open to criticism of any kind by anyone in this group,
Correct.
anyone in any one of the department heads, any one of our peers can openly criticize us and say whatever they want about us. That's what happens when you're an elected official. You better have a thick skin if you're going to be an elected official.
Oh, it has
That
nothing to do with
happens.
thick skin. I was a teacher. I think that I could probably teach you guys a few words that I've been called by kids that are very clever with their vocabulary. So it's not about thick skin or not being able to handle something that's been said to me. If you notice, after the 4 men all did that to me, I didn't file a single complaint. Not once did I file a complaint
Without
against them
getting-
for unprofessional behavior. And you know, when I went to you and I talked to you about the way in which Alderman Chapleski was speaking to Rebecca Grill, and I told you, as well as Alderman Weigel, that if we didn't watch it, she was going to leave, and she would be right to do so, and you looked at me and you said, we can't control what an alderman
We
says.
can't.
You certainly tried to control what I said.
You were bullying. He was not bullying.
Okay, so glad you all were here for that one.
When you take a person, a department person,
Someone who
and
lied,
back them in the
who
corner
did a job and lied.
and
Let's
swear
have one
them,
person talk at a time.
and swear at them and threaten their job, that is bullying.
Yeah, the swear I used was the word bullshit, which is actually a word allowed on TV. So I don't know
And
how
in your
profane that
apology,
is.
You used F-bombs.
Yeah, and you want to know something? That was a private
appropriate.
apology on Messenger, in which Patrick and I had been friends for almost 3 years. And I have numerous emails, including one in your packet, in which Patrick responds to me by saying, hey, enjoy your bonfire. That bonfire that he was referring to was something I posted about on Facebook. Again, another indication of how Patrick exceeded a professional relationship into a professional and a personal relationship. He purported to be my friend. When I sent him that message, I was speaking to Patrick, my friend. And you guys decided to take that and make that. So I think that's really important that aldermen realize that we can't be friends with anybody that works for City Hall. And you got to be really careful about what you say to somebody.
Well, the
Because the double standard is
report
showing.
the report that came in from the investigative attorney that was hired at your attorney's request, you recommended this fellow.
You betcha I did.
and he came back with
With
No-
everything
no problem.
negative about the city
No
and the
problem-
fact that
no
I had
problem
a.
with Mr.
Alderperson Probst, I think that you
Nope.
you should allow the council president to talk, and then you can have your chance to
There
talk.
was no problem with Mr. Stiebel. There were perhaps issues with structural change, he felt, because we have a new city administrator, at that time we did. And yes, we had some issues back then with a number of department heads, not only male, female as well, that did not, I think, understand that there was a change in personnel, there was a change in authority, and yes, there were some internal problems. And I spoke with Rebecca about those, did I not? I think the mayor was involved in some of those conversations, Alderman Haas was. And we resolved those, we got to the bottom of all the issues. I don't think there's any major issues today from anyone. There's always gonna be some conflict with, wherever you work, between people that disagree, but I haven't had anyone come to me, Rebecca included, saying, I have problems with, this person, we have to fire him. Haven't had that.
You
so-
recognize that with Rebecca as an employee of the city, she's also held a little bit quiet over there. She's not going to feel real free to say exactly what she needs to say.
Alderman Liza?
Oh, this is a committee session.
I understand that. I was going to ask you because you said you'd be happy to hear from any of us. And I was just going to ask before you interrupted me, if this would be the forum that you could have a voice, because I have a few things I would like to say. And if you
Well,
can't hear that
if
here,
at the
let
end-
me know when we can hear that.
At the end of the meeting, if anyone wants to ask any questions, we'll allow that.
Thank you.
But right now, this is a committee
That
discussion.
was my question. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I thought I was not going to really say anything. But my father teach me something, that when you're in the right place and you do the right thing, you have to speak up. The fact when I was chairman of the administration and finance, when you have a department head from the finance department, and he was really addressing that night in reference of the budget, he was explaining the way certain things had to be done. So if any of us, any alderman has some questions, reasonable questions, then you can call a special meeting with that department head. But when you start shouting back and forth, and myself be the chairman of administration and finance, I had to put a stop on that. You vote any way you wish. If you disagree with that budget, with certain things, you vote against it. So there wasn't no retaliations in reference that Mr. Mark Wiss, he presented himself very professionally. He tried to explain the situation to this administration and finance body. It was nothing else. But we got something else came forward, which was some like a tax. And we don't need that. This council, I've been here for 30 years, we never experienced anything like that. Isn't that the old boys town? To me, it's very uncalled to embarrassing this council. We have all honest people. I've been here 30 years, and everybody been followed through what their job called for. Respect each other's and respect all the department heads. If you have any problems, I can go say to Scott, to Rebecca, anybody within our structures, without any problems. Without any problems. We had different mayors. We had women mayors in this community. Always had such respect. Whether you're a male or female, we always have such respect for all of us here. Nothing is kept hiding in this community. The council has the authority to delete something, vote against some project, or vote for. We don't care about if the court decided to demolish our structures, but then it's up to us. Again, it falls to this council here, to this body, to make decision, whether it's good for the community or not. That's the way it works. So that's why this is sad, really. I have to say that. It's very sad for our community to go through this. It never happens. As long as this community's been in existence, this is first time that we experience this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Alderperson Probst.
since Alderman Vitale chose to bring it up, when Mark Weiss was explaining what he was explaining that night, it had to do with firefighters' budget. And he didn't like my use of the word shell game, because we have 3 firefighter positions that we fund but never fill. And they needed to have a new fire truck. So rather than taking the money and putting it in the fire truck category where it should be, they just don't fill 3 firefighter positions and then use that money. In my book, that's a shell game. That's not how you do your budget at home. And so I used the word shell game. I never used the word slush fund. I used the word shell game. And he went nuts and he yelled at me. So much so that 3 days later had me come in and he apologized to my face, because he stated that he couldn't believe that he would talk to someone like that in a meeting. I didn't ask for an apology from him. The only apology I ever asked for was the one from John Stiebel after he berated me at a plan commission meeting. And I made a private meeting and I went into his office and I sat down across his desk from him and I told him that the way he had handled himself was horribly inappropriate, and that if he ever chooses to speak to me like that again, we were going to have significant issues. And he apologized to me. So I've had an apology from Mark that was forthcoming on his own. John's had to be asked for. Vince has outwardly refused to apologize to me. Tom has refused to apologize to me for maligning my character to one of my constituents. And Mickey doesn't believe he's ever done anything wrong anyway.
And what's very unusual, Alderperson Probst, is that you can malign everyone else on Facebook and in social media, in
You're
all
looking
sorts
at
of
an
other ways.
audience full of people.
Alderperson Probst, he's talking.
He's lying.
But-
Stop. You're a child.
You can malign.
You were just. Why do I have to?
Glad you guys all Thank you, Alderman Hudson.
One at a time.
And he's an attorney.
One at a
Isn't that
time.
awesome?
Respect, huh?
And folks in the audience,
That was not okay, Kevin.
that
You could apologize.
and folks in the audience need to be quiet. Sure, certainly. I do apologize. I shouldn't have said that. I
No, you
apologize.
shouldn't have.
Okay, so now great, fine, but please let's have some respect, some consideration for everybody,
All right. Well,
and that includes the audience. Thank you.
Kevin, it's not going to be okay for me to sit here and listen to Tom. These are the people who are my Facebook supporters. They've all been watching. Find me the first member of this community on this that I've maligned without having something to back it up. I don't make allegations that I can't back up. I don't bother.
Nobody cares if you can back it up or not. I'm just saying, you malign.
I think they absolutely
And we
care.
have too.
How this place works.
We, number one, we don't know what you're saying because we don't see it. So that's maligning us behind our back. We don't see what you're saying.
You shouldn't be in office.
Point of order.
We're not
Point of
friends with-
order. One person speaks at a time, and the audience is not a member of this committee. We will have order, and the person speaking is the council president. Thank you.
We are not Facebook friends with Alderperson Probst, so we can't see what she puts on there. That's why we can't see it. She has unfriended all of us back in May. She unfriended everyone from the council and most department heads. So none of us know what she says except hearing from her constituents and some of her friends on Facebook that tell us that, oh, she's saying this about you or she's saying that about you. So we do hear a snip here and there, but we're not seeing anything.
So you're suggesting
So I'm not
let
suggesting
me
anything.
finish. You're suggesting then that because I can back it up, that doesn't matter? That's not that if it's not maligning someone if I have the evidence to back it up. That's actually stating a fact.
No. And all anybody has done here is state facts. When
Thank you.
When you voted the way you did, someone called you out on it because they didn't agree with you. To them, that was a fact. To you, your vote was correct. To them, your vote was not correct. And they can call you out anytime they want on that.
What right is it of the first district's alderman to weigh in on the second district alderman's vote? I vote for the people that I represent. I don't vote for him, and I don't care what he thinks.
What right is it for a senator in one state to criticize a senator in another state? It's the same thing, Alderperson
They don't
Probst.
do it in the middle of a meeting.
Yes, they do.
Well, you want to know something?
People
I
do
didn't
it
think
all the
that's how we
time.
did things in West Dallas.
People do
So
all
does
the
that mean
time.
that I can
And
call-
I'm not saying it's right.
So should we be calling Alderman Vitale out on the vote that he made last Tuesday?
I think some of us did.
Good.
So,
What's
See, I was of the assumption, perhaps incorrectly, that the only people that I owed any explanation to about a vote would be those people right there. Those are the only people I owe an explanation to. I don't owe one to any chairman of a department, or excuse me, chairman of a committee. I don't owe it to another alderperson. I vote my conscience, and I vote for the people that actually elected me.
100% correct.
So therefore,
However, anyone else has a right to criticize your vote and tell you that they feel you voted incorrectly.
does he have the right to do that during a meeting?
Sure. Yes, he does. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
Good to know.
our city attorney is sitting here.
So you don't see that as unprofessional?
I'm not saying it's not unprofessional necessarily. Our president does a lot of things that are unprofessional.
Oh, let's
We all
not,
live up with
please
him.
let's not bring our
I mean,
president into this.
This happens all the time. This is politics.
Mr. Chair, I tried to join the Friends of Kathy Probst Facebook page. They wouldn't have me. Can I join? Can I be a friend of Kathy Probst?
It's not a friend of Kathy Probst, it's a supporter of
Supporters
Kathy Probst.
of Kathy Probst.
Well, I don't know. There are a whole bunch of people at this table that haven't once supported a thing that I brought forward. So I don't know, you tell me. I came to you, Kevin, personally. I had more than one conversation with you. Do you think that you support me?
Unfortunately, what we're seeing is an airing of grievances by someone who's very unhappy. I think that, and I'm talking, I have the floor. I think that Alderperson Probst feels that she's been maligned by people, and this is an airing of grievances and her chance to give a parting shot and to have her say and put it all on record, and that's fine. I would also suggest to everyone in the room or anyone who might be listening that part of being a politician is that you're going to have people that disagree with you, and you're going to sometimes be felt disrespected. Somebody might insult you. Well, that's all part of the job. That's all part of being a politician. And I think we do a good job of trying to be civil in our community, in our city. I see lots of other cities that are much less civil and have many more problems internally with how they run their city and with their political structure versus the city of West Allis, but certainly we can improve. And yeah, I do apologize for my comment from before. It was just out of frustration. So, Alderperson Probst, you had brought forth 3 things that you want to have happen. You want sensitivity training, you want John Stiebel fired, and you want the Common Council President to quit. As Common Council President, I would suggest to you, if you want those things to happen, that you bring a motion at this committee to do those things. And then we can act in our legislative process, where it's not based on emails and you bring a motion. If there's a second, then we have discussion and you vote on it. Alderperson Probst is just one of 10 members of this council. Her vote doesn't mean more or less than anyone else's. The whole series of emails, the issue on the expert auto car care, that went to the entire council, and the entire council voted on it. Like, the vote was 9-1 when we found that there was a possible business that would go into this that would be better than a vacant lot. Then we voted to proceed that way, and Alderperson Probst had her chance then. Or 7-3. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
So. Anyhow, Alderperson Probst, and also we're all forgetting one important thing. What's the status of expert auto right now? It is just how Alderperson Probst wanted. It's a vacant lot. So anyhow, Alderperson Probst, I encourage you to bring a motion to do the 3 things that you had wanted.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I thank you. I think that the motion with John Stiebel, should the findings find that factual, that he would be terminated. So I don't think that was that he should just be terminated right now. I believe it's should it be proven that that was a given. And then on the other 2, I don't believe that is onto the agenda to take a vote tonight. I believe that would have to be introduced to the council to take a vote on that. So, just for point of order.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderperson Probst.
While I agree completely with Alderman Barzak, tonight is my final meeting. I will no longer be an alderperson as of Saturday at midnight, as I have resigned my position. And I wanted to make sure that before I left, this council did the right thing by the taxpayers. Tom, I have yet to receive an apology from you for maligning me to one of my taxpayers, one of my constituents. First off, there is no problem with my mental stability, and I am clearly not looking for a payout. This was never about me. This was about the people of my district that asked me to do something for them, and then I was end-arounded and lied to by 2 department heads in this city hall. As an alderperson, I can only do my job if the people who work for us do theirs. I rely on them for information. They lied to me. I told you they lied to me. John Weishan, a county supervisor who stands to gain or lose nothing, will be more than happy to tell you that while John was busy telling me that he would carry forward my opposition, no such opposition was ever delivered to the county board. Tony Staskunis will tell you the exact same thing. I discovered this at the Memorial Day Parade of 2016. And that was when I went and I had a meeting with Patrick and John, and I tried going directly to them, and I said, you fix this. Don't you dare do this on my watch, and not in my district. And from that point forward, when I attempted to do the right thing, keeping it quiet, this didn't have to be this public, this didn't have to become a circus. This is the last thing in the world I wanted. You think this makes me feel good about West Allis? This is where I was born and raised. This is my community. I've worked my tail off since I was 25 years old to the betterment of this community, from the classroom and then from the Common Council chambers. I have never made a single vote that I'm embarrassed about, and I am still to this day not embarrassed for how I spoke to Patrick Schloss because of how I had been spoken to by Patrick's boss, by department heads. I have been clearly shown that that was the way to communicate at City Hall. I was taught that, I learned, and then I implemented that, and look what happened to me. So, along the way, the fact that you could gaslight me to one of my constituents and defame my character by insinuating that I had some kind of a mental issue, I think is absolutely ridiculous and horribly unprofessional.
Alderperson Probst, as I indicated to you previously, those are not the exact words that I used in speaking in a private phone conversation to your constituent who called me that morning because of her concerns over some, her words, rants that you had on Facebook regarding a run-in with Patrick. And quite frankly, you know, did I question your mental stability at the time? I said, I don't know what's wrong with Kathy. Maybe she's got some problems at home. Maybe there's something wrong with the family. I don't know, but that certainly isn't the type of action that I've ever seen from her before. Because anyone that saw it, and there's a number of people sitting at this table that saw it and testified in depositions to our HR department, that unanimously thought it was appalling and uncalled for the way that Patrick was treated.
Did any of those people happen to say how appalling it was of the way I had been talked to and treated?
You hadn't been talked like that. Not like that.
Okay. You were there
And
for the
you're an
John
elected
Steele one? You were there for that?
You're an elected official, and people can criticize you. And, you know, I think that sometimes you forget your criticism of someone, questioning someone, such as Mr. Wiss when he was here. Yes, he got upset because you challenged his integrity. He took it that you were questioning the way he put something in the budget. And he went and got a copy of the budget and brought it back here and said, there it is, it's right in the budget.
Incidentally.
And shortly afterwards, Mr. Wiss left the employee of the city, and I took him out to lunch at my expense and had a little exit interview with him to find out if that situation was something that upset him. And he says, no, not directly. He said, I'm going to be doing something. He said, but it did bring it to my attention. He said that I'm losing my patience. He said, I should not have reacted like that. I don't care what any council member says to me, I should not react like that. And he was apologetic for it. However, he was not entirely at fault. He shouldn't have to take some of the criticism in the manner that you gave it to him. So there's two sides to a story, Alderperson Probst, and you're not always the most tactful person when you attack somebody. And I think you had best look in the mirror and say, how did I approach the situation, and did I act appropriately as well? There's always two sides.
So what I'm walking away from is it's okay when you're a guy to speak like that, but
No,
when
it's
you're
not.
a
It's
girl,
not.
it's not.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm pretty sure that that's what a whole lot of people in this room just heard.
No, it's not. It is not.
You should ask the taxpayers that pay your salary. Because I think that you'd find that there's a little opposition to your way of thinking, Alderman Lysick. This is a sad day for West Allis.
It has not anything to do with you being a woman, it's any alderperson, and I made that clear.
Then I would have
Any
expected the
alderperson-
exact same behavior to have been delivered to the 4 gentlemen that have all spoken to me like that. And not one person at this table, not one, who were witnesses to it, said a single word about how inappropriate it was. And you want to know something? Virtually every single person that has had a conversation in which the words of members of this council have been repeated, no one thinks that it's okay. Not one person, to the exclusion of no opposition. Everyone thinks that the way Alderman Chaplesky spoke to Alderman Reinke was 100% wrong. The people that were in the room that night that heard Alderman Vitale speak to me said it was 100% wrong. These are taxpayers. They're watching their government. They didn't like the way their representative was treated. They didn't care for that at all. I think you ought to listen to them.
Anything else to come before the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I think we had a very lively discussion, and I think we do have hopefully a line of what's the word I want to use here, correction that we're going to take, and I think it was enlightening. I personally am gonna be sorry to see Alderman Probst go. With that, I'm gonna ask for adjournment of the meeting.
No.
Was there anybody that had any question?
It's not gonna be a question, it's gonna be more of a statement, because I sat here as well as all the other taxpayers.
Real quick, Mr. Chair, can we get you closer to the microphone?
And name and address,
name and
please,
address.
Yes.
for a record.
Where do you
Right.
need me?
Right, and
Yours fine. Just close to the microphone.
I'll have a seat and we'll have a talk. Okay, Suzette Grisham, owner of Suzette's Here For You, 7008 West National Avenue, also resident, 3rd District. Michael May is my representative. I'm gonna start out with, if I had this conversation with my children, and I'm just gonna piggyback that comment because that was very offensive and I know you apologize, but if I were to have that conversation with my children, with part of this meeting really reminded me of that. It's a matter of taking accountability. And Alderman Probst is my representative in my business district. I do know for a fact, not based on what she's told me, not based on what's on Facebook, not based on being a supporter on her Facebook page, based on my interactions directly with department heads, investigations I've done on my own, research I've done on my own. When I opened my business, Marty actually was my representative who came forth to me, and we've had this discussion, so we're not gonna reinvent the wheel here. Asked me what I thought should be done with the business adjacent to me, based on the fact that it was vacant. I opened 14 years ago. So, as a taxpayer, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, wow, this property has been vacant forever. So 2013, which was in the report, wasn't by Kathy's hand, it was by my hand. I called Mayor Devine, and I asked to sit down and have a meeting with him, and had a discussion. What are we gonna do about this dilapidated property? Kathy then was a proponent for it being down. I knew that because we've had discussions in between there. So I presented the raise order and what could be done. Dan, within 3 weeks, came back and said it went to the county and it was going to be raised. And we were gonna see that come down. That was 2013. So I was patient, but then I was inquisitive. Why isn't the building coming down? So it was the election night, I think it was, and Michael, I was invited to your party as well as Kathy's, and I stopped by as constituent. And John Steeple was there, where John and I had a direct conversation.
At my
Pardon
party.
me? At your party.
Yep.
He was at yours after too, where I saw him again because I went to both. So we had a conversation about the property, where John presented to me that he was a proponent for that building to come down, and the only thing that was holding up that eyesore of a piece of crap from leaving this district was John Wayshon. And his approach is gonna be, he's gonna get that ball rolling as quick as he can, get there before May. And I don't even know what the year was, so forgive me for not taking notes. I just took his conversation for the truth. And on top of it said, you know, even that building next to you at the corner, love to see that one down too. But he did say he was representing to have that building come down. I never had a personal conversation with Patrick. I had 2 conversations with John. So I was believing that that was the case and the building was coming down. Finding good. All of a sudden I attend a common council meeting and I find out, no, actually it was prior to that. I was told that Ben, and I knew Ben personally because he was my auto mechanic when he was next door to me, that he had a vested interest that he wanted to come into that building. Made no sense to me as a businesswoman because you can put lipstick on a pig and it's not gonna look any better. So what ends up happening is I didn't go to Kathy, I didn't go to Marty. I went to John Wayshawn. And it happened to be very inappropriate because I'm passionate and when I want to answer, I get an answer. And he was at the dugout of Barzak Field having, you know, his volunteer duty. And I went right up to him when I ordered my hot dog and I said, hey, what's the deal with that property? Why would you vote against that? And why would you want to see it up? He said, Suzette, we need to have a talk. So he gave me his business card and I called him and we had a personal conversation. That's where I was enlightened. And I happened to call Kathy and tell her because John told me, Wayshawn I'm speaking, that he couldn't understand, not only as a county board supervisor, but as a resident in our community, why they were advocating for the building to stay up. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked because I had this conversation. I didn't have it with Kathy, I didn't have it with anybody else, I had it with John Steele. So when you tell me integrity is not a part of this, integrity is a huge part of it. And accountability is a huge part of it. So I encourage you to do the right thing. All of you to do the right thing and look at that. And if Kathy's coming forward as representing all of us as taxpayers, it's because we asked her to. And she's done a damn good job. Short of whatever little dog fights you guys have in your private committees, that's not my concern. But when our alderman leaves her position because of whatever is going on behind the scene, and these are the people we want to see in that seat, I have a vested interest. And I think it's nonsense. And I think it's nonsense when you can't offer up, and I wasn't part of that. But all I can tell you as a spectator here, that even if you didn't say the words verbatim, something happened and something's amiss. And when you can't even identify and you have to look at your HR director to say, oh, when did we have that training? Something's wrong, because obviously it's not working. Kevin, I'll call you out again. You don't call your colleague a child, whether you're thinking it or not. That's just fuel for the fire. And how do you expect any progress to continue at our next meeting when that's all on the heels and it all festers and then it blew up and then it became public? But it should be public in the first place. We put you in your seat.
Point of order. We have to keep the door open.
Nobody has authority over the next person here. You're all colleagues. You're all to work together. You're all to represent us. And that's what I expect. So when I go to your department head and I ask those questions and he bullshits me and then goes and does the opposite, I shouldn't have to follow him down to that county board meeting and make sure that he did what he said he was going to do. I don't think Kathy and Marty had to do that. So I think there's some merit to that. And I'm not saying it because I like Kathy, because I do. I'm saying it because I'm a taxpayer. I have a vested interest, and that vacant lot is a hell of a lot better than a dilapidated building, which the city sat on when I went to Dan, had over $90,000 in back taxes because it was $16,000 tax base annually. Guy had brain cancer, died. We knew it was a zombie property. So why were we so quiet about this? I had the same questions. It made no practical sense on paper. So why would you want to sit on that property? Now we've all taken a huge hit, which I already knew too when you voted against it. And you didn't know because you thought, well, geez, honestly, and I'm sorry calling you, Alderman Vitale.
Okay, that's fine.
You voted against it because you said, oh, you know, good businessman coming in, we can give him a deal, and then we're going to subsidize 50 grand on top of it. No, it wasn't a good businessman. It was a backwards deal that didn't make any sense. And that was already, if you would have investigated it and talked to John Wayshawn, that was budgeted for loss already. That was already in that year's taxes. Now we're accepting what I was told, and I don't know the dollar figure, forgive me for it, $250 more grand invested into this by demoing it. And we, all of these people, not just you, we wanted answers. So, as I said, that is my story. I don't know what was detailed in that report because I was interviewed and I did, witness this. So if you're not going to take Kathy's word for it, I hope that I'm not going to be insulted and say you're not going to take my word for it.
Suzette, we had an investigator go through and interview all the people, and you were one of them that was interviewed,
Correct?
and they found that, the investigator found no issue with John. He said he did nothing legally wrong. There's a discrepancy between he said, she said, you said, but he didn't find any facts to say that Mr. Spiegel did anything wrong. The dollars, I think during this whole transition, and Scott, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the law changed, and at one time the county, on raised orders, used to pay for the demolition. State law changed, they don't have to do that anymore, so that put the burden on us. So now we have to pay for the demolition. And when it came to the council to look at, do we spend $250,000 or $300,000 for demolition, or do we give someone a $50,000 facade grant to fix it up the way it used to look and get it back on the tax rolls? That's where the discrepancy came in, and it was a 7-3 vote. Some of us felt that we didn't want to spend the $250,000, $300,000 if we had an opportunity to rehab the building. And so that's, right or wrong, that's the decision that was made. Then when the fellow came to building inspection later, after spending $35,000 on plans, and building inspection says, oh, by the way, you gotta redo the roof, and that's gonna be another $300,000. He said, now that puts it out of my budget, and I can't afford it. Now we have no choice, we tear it down. We
It was
have
the
a quarry.
sprinkler system, not the
Or,
roof.
okay, well,
Yeah.
it was, okay.
But at
But
any
it was,
rate,
yeah, it was a
I
lot-
don't think
a lot
the
more
issue
money.
was the fact that Ben could not finance it after the fact. It's what led up to that, and I think that's what this discussion was about.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, his story varies from my story, or otherwise, you have Marty, you have Kathy, you have myself, who all probably were told the same thing from what I was just hearing, that John and Patrick were going and representing for that building to come down. So then we talk about, okay, you all have the authority, and you did say you can call this to council for a vote, whether John would keep his position, based on, and I would hope as a taxpayer that you guys are hiring the person who is going to have integrity, and who is going to stand by the positions that he says he's gonna tell, what he's telling people that he's going to do. That's what I would expect, and that's where I come in on the accountability factor. So besides the fact of whatever you all believe to be a personal issue with Kathy, above that I'm coming as a taxpayer. We lost, I think, a very valuable person who did eloquently say she's been in this community for a long time. That's a huge loss. I wouldn't want to feel like I'm bumping up against the wall either. We're in this together, we're supposed to be in this together. Everybody at this table is supposed to work together, and I'm just not seeing it happen. So when you cut off your nose to spite your face just to say you're right or you're wrong, it doesn't carry forward for progress. So what I wanted to see tonight was accountability. Everybody step up, you know what? You said something to her constituent, I know you did. Whether it was sugar-coated or not, you did.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
And I
And
admitted
yet,
that.
yet you didn't offer an apology as of yet.
I didn't think an apology, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think an apology was required. Because what I saw that night was a dramatic change in personal behavior that I hadn't seen before. And I was not stating anything but the truth. I had some questions about, is there something going on in her life that changed? Because I had never, in the 6 years I worked with Alderperson Probst, had never seen her act like that. Totally out of character.
Well, and I believe that Kathy put that in terms too. That could have been something, a lot of this, and should have been nipped in the bud early on. And it never would have had to come to what it came to now. But I can tell you, I'm happy with the vacant lot. I'm a hell of a lot more happy with a vacant lot than a rat-infested, dilapidated eyesore next to me. And I'm really sorry that we had to pay. We had to pay as much as we've had to pay.
We are too.
But that's on
It
you
is
guys
better.
for dropping the ball, and that comes to your department heads. So when you come back and you have your own little committee meetings about this, I think that's what you need to review, because that's not the only property that needs to come down, and it might be your district next. And I would hope that you have the support of your colleagues.
Well, some of them they came down already. I mean, across from the farmers market, and the fact what you said about my vote, the questions it is when we have somebody that's willing to borrow almost nearly $700,000 to revamp or to rehab a building without costing our community, the taxpayers, $250,000 to demolish the building, and the fact about he would just do a cheap fix and it was done. It's not true, because already he had to comply with the zoning ordinance, with the facade, with the front of that structures, you know. So he had a lot of money to invest it in that building. So it wasn't like just he just walked in with $100,000. Wasn't the issue here. So that's why this council, to me, diligently made that decision to go ahead with the project of giving this businessman the chance to go there, just like any other business within our community that come forward. So it's not the questions that we try not to follow with our jobs. It's not the fact that department heads, they don't have the final decisions on anything that happens within this community. They don't.
You're right.
I don't care what John Steeple says or what really occurred. I mean, the fact was the county was kind of pushing to tear the structure down. That was their decision. The court ordered to take the structure down. But the final decision comes to this council, like I said early. It comes to this council, whether we're right sometime and whether we're wrong. But I do believe we have respected and trusted council people in this communities. Anybody's been run for office, they always held some kind of integrity. I don't think everybody looks out the other way to disregard anything happens in West Allis, really. Everybody, it's not for the pay that we get. I mean, it's not the issue, but we do because we love to deal with the public. We love to work with people that come forward for any complaints. So we like to work with the departments. I have to respect them because they're doing a great job for our community here. So and that's why, you know, for what I heard tonight, you know, I mean, the person said that person said that, you know, at this point, I don't think this council, I mean, done anything to hurt any businessman or to damage anything, you know. I think we always try to move forward, and we have a person that he's been here with this community for over 30 years, and he done a hell of a good job for this community. And we talk about Mr. John Steeble. He's been well aware and informed our council on many projects within our community here. It's not just somebody that just come off the boat, you know, or come off the train, you know, he doesn't know what's going on, you know. He has certain amount of integrity for us, for this community, you know.
And all
Okay,
due
that's
respect,
all I have.
Vince, all due respect, I mean, you said a whole lot right now, but I'm not talking about whatever other job he might have had, Mandel, otherwise. I'm talking about this, that's what we're here, we're talking about what happened. And if that's the level of integrity that's going into these other, you're making us question, he's making us question. So you can fluff it all you want, but bottom line is we were talking about that. And as far as your vote toward that, I am a businesswoman. I said I can draw up a business plan. It made no sense. So the $50,000 is like $2 to you guys. So what is $50,000 going to do when a guy's saying he's going to invest $700,000 for what? To add one stall, one employee? It made no sense. And then on top of it, it's like, okay, third auto shop and 2-block radius, that really makes sense when we could obviously move forward with the vision of West Allis on the heels of these wonderful projects that are going in, such as Mandel. Why would we allow that to happen? So it just, as Kathy said so eloquently, just didn't smell right. So that led the force.
My
And
final statement that is tonight,
Mr. Chairman?
this council has the authority to vote the way we did.
You do.
So about this particular property. So whether we did wrong or right, that's done. So that's what it is. But
But we're looking at moving forward, and I'm just,
That's
I'm
right,
gonna
that's what
end
I'm
this on
looking
this
for,
note.
you know,
I
so I
hope
mean,
that when you are in committee and you move forward with your sensitivity training and everything else, and that we don't lose any more older persons as a result of the fact that we're not working together in the ways we need to. I don't think that the full accountability is on Kathy. And I kind of gear a little bit of that conversation today, that we're just gonna say, well, this is her final, goodbye to West Allis. I don't think she wanted to do that. In fact, I know she didn't. I think she represented us very well in my district, and specifically with this property. Anything else that was said, done, or in between, I don't know about. But I'm here as a person who is vested in this particular topic. So I hope you take that into consideration when you look at what has been recommended or how you're gonna move forward. And I hope that whomever takes her seat is going to work with us as well as she did. Okay?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Alderperson Probst.
My question remains, when you have alderpersons that must rely on our department heads and our city employees to do what they tell you they're going to do, I guess my question is, do we trust our department heads to do what they say they're going to do? We've just had another taxpayer step forward. I'm a taxpayer as well as a representative. He lied to me. He lied to the county board. That can be backed up by John Weishon. He was the one lied to. All right? This isn't just me and my opinion. You've had Suzette, who was told the exact same lie. I was at that party. It was my party. And I sat with John and Suzette. I again heard John say it for the second time. How he was all about the demolition and he was going to go. Now, just previously, Vince said, it is the council that gets to decide, that a department head doesn't have the power to decide. Yet I have an email that can prove to you we had a department head that made decisions against a circuit court judge's raise order. He never bothered to involve the two alderpersons that represent, especially an alderperson who had been as vocal as I had been since the minute I got here in 2012 about that building coming down. So I guess my question is, as alderpersons, aren't we supposed to trust those that work for us? Am I not supposed to look to them for their advice? I don't know everything about building and development and engineering, so I know that when I had an engineering question, I called Mike Lewis or Pete Daniels or Chris St. Clair, and I got my information from them. Imagine if one of those guys had lied to me, and I had to turn around and tell a taxpayer information that I had been misled on. What kind of a representative does that make me? I have to rely on them. In this particular case, we have evidence of one of our department members, a department head, lying to the county board, lying to me, lying to Suzette. And you act like this is nothing, like that there's no problem here. There's a huge problem here. We have to trust these guys. And I have just shown you that this person couldn't be trusted.
I'm going to ask our city attorney, Scott Post. You've read the report from Mr. Attorney Goldstein that did the investigation on this whole issue. Did you come to, or could you enlighten us on to what his conclusion was on this?
Well, I mean, you stated it, that his conclusion was that, there was no violation of the law, but counseling was recommended. There was no definitive conclusion one way or the other.
Right.
So you're gonna not, so you're hearing, I am a sworn officer of this city. I took an oath to support the Constitution. I have supported every allegation I made that Attorney Goldstein, as well as my own attorney who's in this room, actually went through. Everything was substantiated and backed up. There were witnesses to everything. Why would I lie about this now? I brought this forward. I tried to do this quietly. There's no reason this had to be so stinking public. But you ignored me when I went to you. You're the council president.
You came to me about Vince making a comment and Mickey making a comment.
And about expert auto care.
About expert auto care, but not about somebody lying or anything. You told me what your.
Oh
This
my
was
good
prior
Lord.
to all of that happening, people. You can
No,
laugh
it
all
was
you
not.
want. This was prior to our meeting where we made the decision.
Yes, correct. But it was after I found out something was wrong. And I came to you. You are my next in
And I
charge.
saw the letter that Mr. Stiebel sent to the county board.
And
right?
so what? You,
Rebecca, you saw that.
so
copy
then
of
you
that
pick
letter, right?
sides. You believe John over me?
No, you're.
I'm sworn to,
Mr.
I took
Goldstein
an
did.
oath. He didn't.
Mr. Goldstein said he didn't see anything
No, no,
that
no.
John
Excuse
did
me, Tom.
illegally.
Go back to August of 2016 when we met at Urban Joe's and I had this conversation with you. That's what I'm talking about. If you had listened to me back then and had taken me seriously when I told you something is stinky in Denmark about this deal and we need to look at it,
I asked John about it, and I. And I
why
did-
would he tell? Oh my
I
good
asked
Lord.
John, there was a letter that he sent to the county board.
So I'm lying, Suzette's lying. We're
I'm not saying you're lying.
misrepresenting?
Your attorney, Mr. Goldstein, not your attorney, but Mr. Goldstein that did the investigation, didn't find any wrongdoing by anybody. He said he can't explain why your story and John's story, it's he said, she said. but
Because he lied. Because he's lying. If he were telling the truth, this would be easy.
Well,
It's like you ignoring the fact that I had this conversation with you and telling me I never did this.
I never said that. Yeah, we had a
You
conversation.
said it in front of Rebecca in her office after a council meeting.
No, that we had a conversation. I
Yes,
know I
you
met with
denied
at Urban
that I
No.
ever brought this up to you.
Mr. Chair,
Alderperson May.
I wasn't planning on saying anything.
I wasn't either.
Kathy, I actually absolutely agree with you. This information absolutely was something that should have been brought for investigation. This is actually the first time I've seen this much detail on this at all. This has never been brought to the rest of the council's attention until now. I've seen the allegations. Even this I didn't get until, and I only got this a couple months ago. My point in all this is, I'm happy you did this, actually. I don't agree with the method that you did it. I agree that, I'm happy that you did it.
Can I ask what you mean by that?
And if I can continue speaking, what I mean by that is, there may have been other ways to bring this to the council's attention. You could have gone through maybe the attorney's office if you saw an issue. It could have been a discussion item regarding personnel, put on a closed meeting of the committee of the whole or a council meeting. And I'm not, hindsight's 20/20. All I'm saying is, in the end, I think you're absolutely right. This is something worth investigating. I'm sorry that it went down this way. Until tonight, I had never saw this much detail. And I think this is eye-opening for me as well. I'm a little bit taking it in tonight. That's why I've been so quiet. So I do thank you for putting this together. And I hope we'll continue following up on it. But I wish we could have avoided this over the last several months. And you will notice over the last several months, you know, personally, I've tried staying away from you, not because you're a bad person, but because I know that there's this closed page that I'm not allowed on. I know that there's this. We were good friends on Facebook, and all of a sudden it goes away. And you don't judge your friendships and stuff by Facebook. You just don't. But when you're suddenly cut out, and you're not giving the detail, and you don't understand what's going on, and when you approach that person and you're made to feel like you're doing something wrong, you don't want to speak with that person.
You never asked me a question about this, Michael.
And that's exactly my point. I did not feel comfortable asking you about this because the manner in which it came forward. And so I'm sorry that happened that way. I've enjoyed my time on the council with you. I genuinely have. I do think this is very concerning. I've never seen this much detail on this. And I agree with you. I don't like when I go to a department head and they say it's going to go this way, and suddenly, and it's happened before to me too, Kathy. It has. Where you're told one thing, you get to a meeting, what? You're kind of blindsided. It happens. So I'm going in a circle here. I do genuinely thank you for this information. I've never seen this much detail. I'm sorry it went down this way. That's all I have to say.
If I may, I would like the record to reflect at this time that I agree with you. This never needed to happen this way. And I would like everyone on this council to remember that I went to John first, quietly and privately. I went to Tom, quietly and privately. I went to the mayor, quietly and privately. And I went to Marty, quietly and privately. I tried to do this. I agree with you 100%. This is the last thing in the world I wanted. You think this is how I want to leave this community? I have worked so hard for every single person, from the classroom to the council chambers. I am actually a Westphalian, through and through. And I am embarrassed that this is how this council treated this issue when I tried to do everything the right way, because I agree with you. And there was ample opportunity for you to have, in the last 9 months since I filed that complaint, there was ample opportunity for you to ask me, Kathy, what's this about? Because you're right, we were friends. Not one person in this council bothered to ask me what this was about, not one. But you all stayed away from me. You treated me like persona non grata. I was like the leper in the room. And that's fine, I don't really care. I'm not here for a popularity contest. And I don't really give a rat's butt whether the people at this table like me or not. It's irrelevant to me. I had a job to do and I was here to do a job. And I wasn't gonna let anybody get in my way. And that includes the crappy treatment that I've received at the hands of some of the men in this building. But I would like the record to reflect that I have never once been treated poorly by a female employee at City Hall.
Yes, sir.
Brent Holmes, I own 7219 West Greenfield. I own Avant-Garde Body Piercing. Kathy and Marty are my aldermen. So, secret, I've had plenty of sign issues with department heads and rebuilding my building and everything like that. And unfortunately, it's come to $9,000 in legal fees to solve them. There are issues with department heads and a cutoff and a disconnect with the all agreement. That's an issue because we do elect you guys to lead the city and make those decisions, especially when it comes to places like this, raising buildings, zoning ordinances, planning, what things should look like, everything like that. When that doesn't happen and the department heads go against that, there's a big issue because now our voices aren't being heard. And I think any of you can agree with that. And Alderman, you brought it up. You said, we come to meetings and department heads tell us one thing and something changes. I have a question to you. What do you do going forward? That tells me this has happened before. You haven't changed. Something needs to change. That's bad when they don't listen to you.
Mr. Chair, if I could quickly clarify. So it's been issues where I've gone to department heads ahead of time. I'm told, this is the way we're hoping to progress. And then it comes to council and a decision's made at council, but there were details perhaps I didn't hear. And I go to those individuals one-on-one and I tell them that it's unacceptable. That's exactly what I do. And those department heads that I've gone to, I've not had problems with again. So, but I appreciate the input that you gave here about the disconnect. I think, that happens in many organizations. It's not an excuse. It's something that has to be corrected. So, and I thank you for standing up and telling us that too.
In my business, we solve it very quickly. It's called termination. That's what happens in the private world. Public world, I wish it was as quick.
Anything else come before its committee?
Got another person in the audience.
Oh, okay.
I just have very quick, like to say.
Name and address,
I'm
please.
sorry, my name is Lee Gould. I'm at 2048 South 73rd Street. Kathy is both a friend of mine and my representative, and I'm just beside myself that we're losing her because she's been a wonderful representative. She's been there. She's been present. She's been available. What I'm hearing tonight is upsetting to me in that what I hear being said is, forgive me, I have terrible anxiety. I cannot walk away from this meeting without saying something. What happened to Kathy, or what Kathy did, that Kathy did something wrong. She treated someone inappropriately, and that was wrong. Okay, maybe it was. But we're denying that what was done to her and what was said to her and the things that were said to her, that they were wrong. We're saying it's politics. It's the way it is. People can disagree with each other. This is the way politics are today. And I have a huge issue with that, and we all should. Because it's wrong here, it's wrong at the state, it's wrong at the federal level. People should not be treating each other like that. We expect better from you, all of you. And I believe in my heart that every one of you is a good person. You all want what's best for this city. So when we're telling you this isn't okay, the way these things went down isn't okay. Your investigator found no legal wrongdoing. Maybe there wasn't any legal wrongdoing, there was some wrongdoing. And I hope to God we're gonna get to the bottom of it and we're gonna fix it. Because I love this city too. I wasn't born and raised here, but I am a West Allian. Been here for 12 years and I love this city. My children were raised here, they go to school here, my kids are graduating. I hope to stay here for a while longer. I'm an Iowan at heart, so I probably won't be here forever. But I really, really hope that we've all learned something and that we will move forward and do better. That's what we need to take from this, that we all need to do better and expect more from each other. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Alderperson Probst.
before we adjourn for this night and I leave the city behind, I would be remiss if I did not put a plug out there for my district. It is my belief that this position of mine should not sit vacant. I believe that the second district taxpayers have already been through plenty after having watched their representative get run through the mud. I would like to see this council move forward with an appointment, and I am asking that the appointment be made of Mr. Tracy Stefanski, as he did run for this council position. He has already been a choice of a great number of people in the second district, falling short by only 145 votes. I believe he is the most appropriate person to take over for me in my position, and I am imploring this council to please consider his appointment to this body. The second district does not deserve to be underrepresented for one meeting, especially after their... Alderman Chaplesky, do you have a problem? I've watched you smirk at me this entire meeting, and your back is to the audience, so they can't see you.
I'm smiling because this is a circus what you're putting on today, and you're sitting here talking about how it underrepresented. So Vince, when he goes to Italy every summer, oh, we're underrepresented.
Yes, he is. He is a sworn officer of this community.
So nobody can take a vacation.
Not for an entire summer.
Well, you can't take a week off then. Well,
If you're not going to miss a meeting, of
underrepresented.
course you can. But when you're going to take an entire summer away from your representative duties, I think you got some issues.
I
So
think
I'm
so.
just done watching you smirk at me from across the table. Your
I'm not even
disrespect
looking at you.
oozes off of your body. And you know, these people have all watched you, not only on camera, but I bet you the mayor got at least 20 emails and or public comments after watching your antics at council meetings. You are an embarrassment to this council.
Sure.
Anything else to come before the committee?
Mr. Chair, I call adjournment.
I'll
Move
second.
for adjournment.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.